It's been a long time since Wine Chan has come out. Hey, it's Romania Black. And yeah, we're on volume 28 of Ace of the Diamond Act 2. And I'm gonna assume that the semifinals are ending tonight. And that's gonna be fun. I have realized I've never brought Wine Chan out for an Ace of the Diamond review. It's just never seen, you don't really drink wine at a baseball game, right? You don't usually do that. It's too hyped up for that. You'll spill it everywhere. I'm prone to spilling stuff all over me. Wine plus a white jersey would just be really bad news. I had enough trouble getting ketchup all over it. So, But in this case, it was called for because we're at the end of the semifinals. We're about to be in the 9th inning. And this game has been amazing. It's probably been one of my most favorite games in the entire series. It's just been that good. Amahisa versus Sawamura. It's been gold. I want Sato to win so bad. I think Sato's going to win, but how they're going to do it, Shirasu is up to bat, and they ended us on that cliffhanger where he was swinging the bat. We were going to see if he was going to make it or not. It's like, we got to tie this up somehow. And if it's not in this inning, it's going to have to be in the next inning or the game's over. So, Terajima, why are you stressing us out this much? Because, yeah, I have a feeling I'm just going to come back to that wine glass at the end of each chapter as we go. So you don't have to sit and watch me slurp it. But, yeah, I'm like, why? The last Koshin games I watched on actual Japanese television were not like this close. They were shutouts, which I guess I should be happy that Sato's not getting shut out by Ichidai third. But so yeah. I'm pretty excited for this game to see how it's going to round up. Sawamura and Amahisa have been going at it, ace versus ace. They're both probably exhausted. I don't think they're going to switch them out. I think that they're going to both stay in. And then the next game, Sawamura is going to be like, I need a break. Like, for real, if you want to start off against May, let May have his way and face off against you. Go for it. So, but yeah, I'm pretty excited, y'all. So I got my notes. I got my wine chan. I'm ready to start out, and I've opened up chapter 248. It's 248 to 256 are our chapters. I got it right this time. But it's starting out with that, and the very first page is Shirasu swinging, but we don't get to see how it goes. So I'm like, damn it, Terajima, damn it. So yeah, but I hope you all are excited because I am. I'm really excited too, so let's not waste any more time. We're going to dive right into Ace of the Diamond, volume 28 of Act 2, and we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, let's jam! When did this become a BL? Like officially, because it's been that way for a while, right? Ever since Miyuki was swinging the bat and Sawamura had the glow in his eyes, and they actually touch back on this in this chapters, but when did it become an official BL? I think it was chapter 256. I think that's cemented. I think Terajima was like, yeah, it's a BL. Why can't we have one volume of nice things, Terajima? Why can't we? Because I want to be so supportive and happy for Sato winning the semifinals because it just hits you and it's amazing. But then you give us that drama. My Taurus empathy was on high. I was having such empathy towards Sawamura. I was like, honey, I understand what you're going through, you and Aso, but you boys have to tough it out. Koshu, you great communicator, you and Asada and Sato and Kuki, snap that boy out of it. We got the finals in 2 days. Miyuki! Which is not Miyuki's fault. It's really not. Sawamura, if you came 30 seconds earlier, you would have seen him talking about you. Miyuki, you're just got to kiss this boy and tell him that he's doing fine. So, okay. Wine was a very bad choice. Or the best choice, however you want to look at it. So I had to refill my glass at chapter 253. I was like, oh, we're going to round 2. This was a mistake. Especially by what we got. But oh my god. So we need to go through this. Oh my god. These chapters, so good. So wonderful. I loved them so much. But yeah, so these chapters were going by really fast. This whole volume felt really fast because it was just action, just one thing right after the other. It was so good. So good. I was so happy with it. But yeah, 248, man, Shirasu doing it. We've talked in the Discord about it. I ship a lot of BL couples, especially in sports anime, but I don't ship Shirasu and Nori. I don't. I talked about that last volume. I honestly don't. We talked about this in the Discord. They're more like best bros. Shirasu is like a total best bro, as is Nori. And I feel like I just love the idea of Shirasu connecting with Nori and being like, bro, I got your back. I got you on this. That Nori is interesting in that chapter because he talks about how even before the injury, he was thinking about quitting. And it's like, really? And he talks about how due to household circumstances, he does not think he could play pro or play at the college level. And I was like, huh. So that makes me think like he has some problems at home that he needs to go and take care of. Like if it's a sick family member or he needs to stay close to home to like help them. And so he's like, I'm going to give it all into my high school year. And then that's it. And I'm like, oh. So there's like stuff behind the scenes. And again, this volume is all about people like opening up to one another and like connecting with one another. And Nori opened up to Shirasu about this thing that he is very personal to him. So I love that Shirasu was like, I'm going to do you right, buddy. Do you a solid. And God, Shirasu's hit not getting caught and it ties. Oh, and that hug with Kuramochi and Miyuki. Oh my God, that hug. That's one of my favorite panels, I think, in the whole damn manga, is just them giving that hug. They're just like, you did it. And just like getting home to tie the game. That was so satisfying. That was so damn good. Miyuki and Kuramochi, they're two like best bros, right? Just doing so good. And then Nori and Shirasu's fist bump from the field, him being like this, Nori being like this. It's like, That chapter 248 was just my jam. I loved it so much. And then Ochiai of all people, Ochiai's like, he's like, I didn't think that my strategy about Shirasu and bumping him up to cleanup would have saved the game. I'm like, shut up, Ochiai. Just get out of here. Nobody wants you here. And then Katioka with that just stare where he's just like, we've tied the game. We're so close. We can do this. But yeah, Shirasu coming in clutch right before Miyuki. And then I love that tie back to Katioka telling Shirasu, he's like, look, we put you in the third hole for a reason. They're going to be targeting Miyuki, so we need you to come in right before him and just give it your all and just knock it out of the park and give Miyuki something to stand on. He's like, you pursue the batting that is best for you. And I'm like, Katioka, you are my second favorite coach for a reason. I was like, yes, it's just so damn good. And just like keeping it. And honestly, like Sato was having such a high from getting that run tying the game. And Amahisa, Kosei kept his cool. Kosei's like, hey, he's like, it's fine, guys. He's like, we tied the game. It's okay. Like, he's like, man, coming back in the 8th inning, who would have thought? But he was so calm and shrugging it off. And he's like keeping confident and him looking at his fellow teammates being like, just score some more runs for me. You can do that, right? Like keeping in Kosei's attitude. Like I give Amahisa, like Amahisa did not cave. Not in this. I mean, like that pitch to Miyuki that was a little bit weak. That's all it took. But he didn't cave like as far as being the ace to his team, right? And then just him just giving that energy off. And Sawamura being happy for Mochi. That was great for Kuramochi. And then the Seki, you bold man, you bastard, doing the walk up from Lupin the Third, doing Tetsu's walk up for Miyuki. Like that extra confident boost. And Tetsu being like, and them setting it up, waiting for this for the 8th inning. That ending of chapter 248 was just amazing. I loved it so much. It was so freaking good. I had like hearts just wrote all over the page. It was wonderful. So 249, I love that Sawamura, he calls out to Yui. He's like, hey, Yui. Because right now, Koshu is practicing with Furuya. He's like, Yui, come catch some of my pitches, because, he's like, we may have to warm up a little bit so that you can get ready for us. And it's like, I love it so much. It's so cute. But there's 2 outs. Amahisa, he wants to get Miyuki out for the team. And God, here is the thing. Sawamura, this whole volume, the way this volume ends, I'm like, Miyuki, he wants to do this for you. Miyuki is all about you, Sawamura. It's just, damn it, Miyuki is awful at communicating. He's the worst. In his head, he says some damn good things. And in this volume, like up until chapter 254, I was like, Miyuki was being pretty romantic out there with Sawamura and the whole partner business. I was like, Miyuki, but damn it. Sawamura is our Taurus boy. He's kind of dense. Miyuki, you are just going to have to talk to this boy one-on-one and just say it. Because he doesn't, I'm like, Sawamura, you couldn't show up 30 seconds sooner. On chapter 256, chapter 256. I can only imagine the fandom with that chapter. I wanted to scream. I wanted to scream while taking notes. I was like, I can't. But him saying, he's like, I don't want it to, he says that Sawamura has been pitching his best. I'm like, tell him that. I was like, oh, damn, Chris told him that. You tell him that too, Miyuki. He's like, he's been pitching his best. He's like, I don't want it to go to waste. As his partner, I'm like, and he does say that to Sawamura. He does say it, but it's like, after the game, you need to say it. Like, damn it, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. But, Amahisa focusing. It was just like the final boss. Miyuki was the final boss. He was, in fact. For Amahisa, that was the last straw. That's what sealed the deal on the game. Right? I mean, Zono came after it, but it's what sealed the deal. And he's like, I would hate for anyone to change. I do like that Amahisa says he'd hate for somebody to change his walk-up song. He's like, why'd they change his walk-up song? I would hate that. But Kosei doesn't understand the significance of it being Tetsu's walk-up song. He doesn't get that it was the former captain and that relationship. So he doesn't know the full story, right? He's like, how can he be in such a good mood? And it's like, if only you knew, right? But I love how he compares Sawamura and Miyuki to Sanada and Raichi. He compares the two of them to, I'm like, my two pairings, I mean, aside from Umamiya and Now, they're OTP, for sure. But my next pairings are like Sawamura and Miyuki and Raichi and Sanada. And for them to compare the two of them, I'm like, Terajima, you know what we're thinking. You know it, damn it. And it's like, yeah, Sawamura and Sanada being compared. And then of all people, Raichi and Miyuki being compared, that's the wildest thing. But if you had told me at the start of this series that at one point, I mean, if you told me at the start of the series that Sanada and Sawamura would be compared, I'd be like, yeah, sure. Because when we first met Sanada, they kind of said he was Sawamura 2.0 because they are very similar. And I was like, sure, I would totally buy that. But if you told me in season 1 that we'd be comparing Miyuki to Raichi, I'd be like, what? But that's so true. And for Amahisa to point that out, and then chapter 249 ends with the count at 2 strikes and 3 balls. And it's like, Miyuki, it's Shirasu all over again. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? And then 250 happens. How Terajima, in the span of 1 volume, can have us go from the Sawamura Miyuki shipping high that is chapter 250 and 249 to going to chapter 256 where we're questioning everything. And it's not even that we're questioning everything. It's like, Sawamura, honey, Koshi needs to calm you down, and Koshi needs to talk to Miyuki and slap some sense into both of them. Koshi, I'm sorry you have to be the mediator between this couple and their little squabbles and misunderstandings, but you have gotten stuck with this first-year job. I hope you're happy. I'm not ready to talk about 256, so we're not going to worry about it now. We're going to talk about the better chapter instead, which is 250, a.k.a. I'm toasting Terajima for... It's like Terajima giveth and Terajima taketh away, because chapter 250 is glorious. It's wonderful. It kept you waiting. Oh, how dare you? How dare you, Terashima? How dare you give us that? Miyuki finally hits it. He finally hits it after the first hit he's had at bat this entire game. And I love that Chris, right before that, Chris was like, well, it's a 50-50 chance. Chris is being like the most kosher about it. Like, well, let's not get our hopes up, you know, trying to curb his enthusiasm, if you will. But Yuki's confident. Yuki's sitting there on fire like, nah, he's got this. I love it. And then Amahisa, his coach was confident too. And then, again, just kind of like, you know, one thing I regret in this series is seeing more of Takami and Amahisa. Because I really got the vibe that Amahisa and Takami were like on the same wavelength, like Sawamura and Miyuki are. But they're just not, we just don't get enough with them, right? We get more with like Manaka and Kosei than we do anything. But I wish we had more Takami in this manga because he's pretty cool. And I liked his character a lot. But they're like on the same wavelength. Shirasu takes off. And then the rest of chapter 250 is like all in slow motion. I love that it gets dark. And I love that we see the ball like come out of Amisa's hand. He's got the 2 grip on it. And then it goes. And then, God, he hits it. Sawamura looking. The panel of Miyuki's hit. God, Terajima, that was such a good panel. That was such a good panel. And then Shirasu gets home. It's 2-1 in the 8th. Sawamura yelling Captain Sato. Sawamura just yelling for him. And Miyagawa just missing it. And then just being oh wait, no, I'm getting ahead of myself. And then Sawamura being like, Captain Sato, and Miyuki looking back at Sawamura and being like, sorry I kept you waiting. And it's like, God, really? Really? And then Zono's crying. He's so proud of his senpai and his fellow teammates, like up to bat. It's so good. And Sawamura just like cheering on Zono and everything. I mean, just, oh God, Sawamura just cheering on Miyuki and everything. It's so good. And then we have chapter 251. Zono has the same thing that happened with Shirasu Miyuki. He gets up to bat. There was the cliffhanger. He hits the ball, but it does get caught by Miyagawa. That was my notes. Kosei is visibly frustrated off the mound. I want to make note about that. Off the mound. One cool thing about Kosei in this entire game is that whenever he gets frustrated or mad about something, he never shows it on the mound. He doesn't let it get to him while he's the ace, while he's the pitcher. He's like, no, we got this, guys. We're good. Let's go. He's like, that was my bad. Let's just go. Let's keep on rolling with it. He never gets like worked up or frustrated on the mound. And the moment he gets off and switches from being pitcher to not being pitcher, it's like all that emotion just suddenly comes out and he's like, bleh, and just like vomits out that emotion, right? Because he is visibly frustrated when he gets off the mound. As he would be. It's now 2-1. And it's from his pitching. He couldn't do anything about it, right? And so Sawamura, he cheers up Zono. I do like that Sawamura, he like gives a compliment to Ichidai third. He's like, it's okay, Zono, you did your best, but man, that guy had to come in and just save the day for Ichidai third, right? And it's like, Sawamura, he's too nice. He has to even compliment the other team, right? And then I like that we see Koshu. Koshu sees it all. Koshu is such an observer. He's been watching this whole game. Just watching everything with Sawamura, just keeping his eyes focused. Koshu is like, when I become a second year and Sawamura's a third year and I'm going to become main catcher, like he's just like preparing himself. Koshu is like just letting the fire erupt. I think Yui will still be a catcher next year, but I feel like Yui kind of has like, I feel like it's funny. I think that Miyuki will kind of split in mitosis and Koshu will become the main catcher of Sawamura and Yui will become like a cannon is how I figure it. I figure like you're gonna have, I wouldn't be surprised if Yui became like a main batter. Would not be surprised. But yeah, and so I like that Sawamura, he sees Koshu catching with Furuya and Sawamura thinks he's gonna get switched out. He's just so used to it. And God, I'm gonna be honest, if I wasn't so hyped up from this volume and everything that had happened, I think chapter 251 almost made me cry. I almost got teary-eyed. I was getting a little teary-eyed. I'm like, nope, too much adrenaline. Wine-chan, nope. I'm not a weepy drunk. I'm a hyper drunk. So I'm like, no. And I'm not even drunk. I like anything like that. But I was just like, if I drink, I don't get weepy. I get like super psyched up, right? So yeah, he's just like, Sawamura thinks he's going to get switched out. And then Kateoka's like, no, I'm going to keep you until the very end. And it's like, and then he's like, you're only at 102 pitches, which 102 pitches for 8 innings is really good. Really good. Because, I mean, going to the baseball game that I went to, like, one pitcher was at, like, 70 pitches in, like, 3 to 4 innings. Like, that's where they were at. And I was like, so 102 in 8 innings is incredible. And so Sawamura, he thinks back to all the times that he had to beg to stay in. And that's such an indicator of Sawamura's growth. Because going back to that one game where Furuya swapped out with him and Sawamura was begging to stay in, he was like, come on, give me a chance. Let me prove myself. He doesn't have to say that now because he has proved himself as the ace. Like he's proved himself these 8 innings and gave it his all. And Kateoka's like, no, I'm rewarding you. You still got energy. You still want to do this. Let's go. Like it was so damn good. And Sawamura, like, just thinking back to that moment. And Kateoka, I like that Sawamura was like, well, he's like, what, do you think you're going to get swapped out? And Sawamura's like, I'm sorry, we're lacking in communication. Kelsey in the Discord said, like, literally right before I started this reaction, she was saying in the Discord, she's like, I want to see Sawamura and Kateoka sit down and have a conversation. And I was like, yeah, that'd be great. And so then you hear this part where he's like, I think we're lacking in verbal communication, Kateoka. Lacking in that communication, boss. And he's like, what? I want to see it now. I want to see, like, after everything's over with, after the finals are over with, hopefully after Koshin's over with, I want to see them, like, have a sit down. And it just be the best. Right? So, I love that Sawamura is like, my Sato soul is lit. Thanks, boss. And it's like, 250 and 251. my jam, my absolute jam. I freaking love them. And I love that Sawamura, when he gets to the mat, he's like, hello again, good sirs. It's like, it's such like a boomer, like just a tourist thing to do. Hello again, good sirs. And Aso's ready to go in. He's like, let's do this. He's like, I've been ready. Which in hindsight, thank God Sawamura did fine, because Aso's like, well, I might not have been in good form like I thought I was. It's like, thank goodness that Aso looked ready. But man, Terajima knows how to just create this contrast, because you have Sawamura so fired up. Sawamura is so excited that his coach was like, no, you're staying in all 9 innings. You're pitching all the way through. Let's do this. He's so excited. Aso's going in. You have all this hype on Sato's end. And then it cuts back to Ichidai third's end. And it's like the coach is trying to like get them all riled up and everything. But you can distinctly, without hearing it, without it even being animated, you just feel the difference. And that's kind of like Terajima's strength as an illustrator. You just feel that difference. And it's like, damn, that's good. Where you can just feel like the quiet intensity of it. And at the same time, I love that the coach is like, he's like, never give up. You are great, my boys. Like he was confident with them till the very end. But Amahisa, like him just standing there alone in the dugout with the towel on his head and just being like over it. It's so good. And then like, I love when after that speech from Toshi-chan, from the coach, like all of Ichidai third's people, like they start going out to getting up to bat, and they look at Sawamura and give him the death glares. They're just like, we're going to take you down. And Sawamura's like, yeah, I expected that. It's like, I love it. I love that moment. And Kachioka. So Kachioka has this moment where he talks to Miyuki, and he's like, stay aggressive in your pitching. He's like, if worse comes to worse, we do have Furia we can back up on, right? So a part of me is like, there's a little like petty part of me that's like, do you not trust Sawamura? But he does. Clearly he does. But he's just like being pragmatic. And he's like, look, if worst comes to worst, we do have Furia we can fall back on. So don't slack. Don't be timid. Pitch aggressively. Do what you've been doing this entire game and you'll be fine. And so he's like, we also have another chance to score. So this is not the time to build up any pressure. Kachioka's just basically trying to tell Miyuki, he's like, don't get stressed. We still have another round to pitch, to bat. And we still have Furia if something goes wrong. Don't worry about it. It's fine. He's like, just stay aggressive as you always have been. And God, the end of 251 though, when Amahisa said, this is so lame, I thought Amahisa was like feeling defeated and like he was going to throw in the towel and he was going to be like, we're not going to win. Like I thought he was going to be that defeated, but no, I almost feel like Sawamura inspired him to be like, no, this is going to be so lame. And he ends up cheering the team on. He yells at them from the dugout like Sawamura has been doing. Amahisa, Kosei, you put up a hell of a fight, dude. I love your character. And that moment of Amahisa, just like that moment where he was like cheering from the stands, I was like, toast to you, sir. That was amazing. That was a good one. But yeah, so 252 was like stress in a handbasket. That because the moment at first when the first batter like hit the ball and it bounced and went up to Sawamura, I thought Sawamura had been hit by the ball. I thought it was like gonna hit his arm or his elbow and injure him, and I was like, are we about to do this, Terajima? No. Terajima has something worse planned because it's Terajima and he can't let us have nice things, right? So I thought that like Sawamura was gonna get hit by it, but no, he catches the ball. And then Miyagawa was up to bat. What is with Terajima having Sawamura have dead balls? What is with him hitting the batters? Why are you making this happen, Terajima? Why? I want to know. Because Sawamura, was it going too well? Was everything going too well for our protagonist? You're like, things are going really well. Better put that dead ball in there. I was like, I hope that we passed our dead ball limit per season and we cannot have a repeat of Shirakawa. I really hope that. Please let that be the case. I am glad, though, that Sawamura did not get bags under his eyes and was not deterred. Miyuki went up to have the timeout. He was like, well, we need to talk this out real quick. But Sawamura was fine. He was fine. He thought about Shirakawa. I'm glad that we saw him, like go back to that. But he was fine, right? So there's a dead ball. And then And the whole thing right before the dead ball was he was like, I'm going to shut you out with my spirit. Sawamura had some strong spirit, and it just curved the wrong way. It was like clearly an accident, right? Although I do think Hoshida inadvertently, without wanting to do so, actually helped the situation rather than hurt it, because Hoshida comes up to bat, and my God, he's like, the way that Terajima draws him, we were talking about this in the Discord. In the anime, Hoshida does not look anything like this in the manga. There's no like dramatic Zono-like lighting on him, no like shadows on his faces. He doesn't look like that at all. I hope for season 4 they go all out making Hoshida look as dramatic as possible. I really hope that they do. They should, because it was wonderful. And just Hoshida, his beady eyes like coming out of the darkness. And I love that like when he gets up to bat, he's like squatting, and in the stands, Ichidai third is like, "Oh mighty spirit of the bat, like go forth, we implore you." It's like, oh my God. And it's just like, that part is hilarious. I love the team is totally on board with Hoshida's like spirit of the bat mentality. And then Amahisa going to the bullpen just like Nori. And Amahisa's going to the bullpen because he's like, you're going to tie the game up and we're going to have to go extra innings. So I'm going to get warmed up. Like, that was so sweet. Like, that was such a good move on Kosei's part. I'm like, dude, that was the best. It was just like Nori trying to inspire for the team. It was great. And then Miyuki, 252. How in the span of 4 chapters we went from like the most Miyuki Sawamura shipping content to like Angst City? Terajima, why? But Miyuki, he's like, everyone's here for you. Pitch like you were up until now is all I ask. He's like, just pitch it to my mitt. That's all I want. And then that line, let's go slay some monsters, shall we? I'm counting on you, partner. It's just great. My BL shipping heart was satisfied before Terajima took a dagger and carved it out of my body. It was great. But yeah, I love the motions of, and then right after that, like we see like Miyuki giving that pep talk to Sawamura, and Sawamura clearly like smiling and them smiling back at each other like a damn couple. And then you have Ochiai. Ochiai is the most pessimistic. He's like, well, if they tie the game, then we'll have to go possibly in the extra innings. We'll have to get more runs. Like, Ochiai's being kind of pessimistic. The manager's like, just let's not go there. The manager's like all of us. The manager's like, let's not even think about it. Just, it's not real. It's not going to happen. But I love Kateoka. These boys will pull it off. He's just like Ichidai's coach. He was so passionate and sure that they would be fine. I'm so happy. And then Sawamura, Nori, and Furia are like, go! And Chris is like, attack! I'm like, oh! It's just, 252 ends so good. It ends so good. And then, damn, 253 and 254. The ending of this game, like, it comes out of nowhere because I forget that once, I think that you have to go through all 9 innings. I forget that once you get it to where it's not possible for them to tie up the game, it ends. I forget that. So when chapter 253 ended, I was like, wait, that's the end of the game? Oh shit, that's the end of the game. Ah! And so I like had like a belated freak out, like a delayed freak out. But yeah, Sawamura versus Hoshida. God, the illustration, the dramatic lighting, all of it is so good. Like how dramatic Hoshida is illustrated in this. And then Sawamura, that pitch, he's like going through there and he's like, I just need to throw it to his mitt. So damn good. And then like that idea that Sawamura is like, if I'm pitching for you, Miyuki, I can pitch even better than before. Like that potential. He's like, as long as I'm pitching with you, I'm great. Which is going to tie into chapter 256, and we'll talk about it when we get to it. But that was just like, he's like, I have all this potential when I'm with you. And it's like, just make out with him already. So Hoshida hits it. It misses Sawamura and goes straight to Kuramochi. Kuramochi passes it to Haruichi, so that's 1 out. They get Miyagawa out. And then they pass to first, get Hoshida out, and it's like the 6-4-3 double play. And God, that ending of that chapter when they realize that the game is over and Hoshida's face is like buried in first base and Amahisa's like just staring at him, that was heartbreaking. I was like, damn. Like I wanted Sato to win and I figured that they would, but for it to happen on that double play with our keystone combo, that was good stuff. That was good stuff. So yeah, chapter 254, the 6-4-3 play, Sato wins. I really wanted Sawamura. I kept thinking in this chapter that Sawamura was going to walk up to Kosei and like shake his hand or say something to him, which we get the text message. We get the text later, which I'm glad about. But I kept thinking, I was like, oh, he's going to text him. It's going to be fine. Or he's going to talk to him. But no. But he sees Amahisa crying. And that's like the first like big genuine display of emotion we see out of Amahisa. Him crying like that. And Sawamura was like, oh, damn, it's over for him. Right? And so he like notices Amahisa's crying. Inashiro with May and Carlos and them watching from the locker room. Oh, here's the thing. It pisses me off so much. And I know what Terajima's doing. I know what he's doing. He's going to wait until his final game to give us any insight on Sawamura from May. He's going to wait till like the last damn inning of that game to give us it. To give me what I want. And I wanted May to walk by Miyuki and be like, see you at the finals. Or like something like that. We don't get that. No, we don't get that at all. But the fact that they were watching, I was like, May, you saw how good Sawamura did. You better say something. We're probably not going to get a damn thing until the last inning of the finals. Probably not. Damn it. But yeah, you know, like you do, they're watching. And then Ichidai. What I did love about this is that when they were at the lineup, Ichidai third were really kind to Sato. Like the one guy came up to Miyuki and he's like, just one more to go. He's like, you guys can do this. You got this. And I loved like Miyagawa and them like looking over to Kuromochi and Zono and they were like, thanks. And like giving each other like the thumbs up and the fist bump. Like even though they lost and Ichidai third was devastated and crying, they were still so kind to Sato and nice. I was like, damn, that's really cool. Like that's good sportsmanship. I like that. I like that a lot. I like a good sportsmanship at the end of my game. That was really cool. And then Sawamura noticing Amahisa again. Here's the thing, Sawamura. Look, if Amahisa goes pro, you can keep up with him too. Like, it's fine. You guys will be friends online. It'll be great. 256. So, and Sanada. So we don't get any resolution with Sanada. We don't. Not yet. Which is interesting. Sanada being like, and I understand where Sanada's coming from. Sanada's like, well, I didn't really necessarily want Senko to win, but it's kind of that concept when you get beat by a team, you want that team to win because it will make your loss feel better. It's like, well, he's like, yeah, we lost to Senko, but they were the national finalists, so I guess, we lost to the best. What can we do? But the fact that they didn't make it to finals, Sanada's like, he's like, damn you. He's like, damn you guys. Like, come on, you should have done better. He's like, because now he says, he's like, now Sanada's like, well, how can I sort out my feelings? He's like, what do I do with these now? He's like, I wasn't even beat by the national finalist team. What do I do about it? So we don't get any resolution with that. So Raichi and Sanada, no resolution yet, which is curious. I'm wondering when Terajima is going to go back to them, but I hope it's at least at the end of the final or something like that. So that's curious. But yeah, the coaches. We cut to the coaches talking about, chapter 254 had a lot of notes, along with 255. But the coaches, neither of them were planning to swap out their ace. They were planning to keep him in the whole game. I love that Kateoka, he defends Sawamura and talks about how great he's been pitching. And I love that Toshi defends Kosei and was like, he's our ace after all. And I freaking love Manaka being down there with them. That was amazing. Like seeing Manaka sitting down there next to Kosei. Like, because Kosei needed it, right? He was so sad. But Manaka being down there and saying that he was Kosei's #1 fan. And he's like, dude, he's like, baseball's complicated. And it sucks. He's like, but what you do from here, you're only going to be stronger for it. And I love Manaka, just like the retired third year being like, dude, look, you're only going to get stronger. And he's like, I'm your #1 fan. So when you go pro, he's like, you're going to face this stuff all the time, but you're going to get stronger for it. And he's like, I'll be there for you at the next stage. I was like, Manaka, you angel, you sweet man. I love you. That was so good. So good. I loved how in the rest of this chapter, just the retired players just being there for each other. Like we saw Rio talking with Haruichi and Kuramochi, and we saw the other third years like interacting. And then Chris Senpai. Chris Senpai with Sawamura. Sawamura being so happy with Chris. I need Chris to be there to talk to Sawamura. And that's why I feel like Koshu's like this weird mix between Miyuki and Chris. And so I feel like Koshu might be able to offer some help. But Chris being there and just Chris outright praising Sawamura, being like, you were pitching like a true ace. You were great. I'm like, Miyuki, take some more notes. Like when you're off the field, you can praise Sawamura too so that he knows. Because our boy is dense and he doesn't know otherwise. But Sawamura just being like all sparkle eyes around Chris. And him talking about like how he was so happy. And here's the thing. This is the thing that gets me, right? Going to chapter 256, this is the thing that gets me. Is if you look back at chapter 254, okay? Watch Miyuki. Watch him during that Chris and Sawamura exchange. Watch him. You know what he's doing? He's watching Sawamura. He was looking at Sawamura throughout that entire exchange with Chris and seeing how happy Sawamura was. Like a freaking BL couple. Like he was so happy at how excited Sawamura was to talk to his senpai that he admires so much. Miyuki was watching him. I'm like, Miyuki, fucking say something. I was like, ah! It was so frustrating. And I'm sorry I cursed, but I'm, just like, come on. And so then we have like Chris wanting to catch for Sawamura. Please do. I want Sawamura to catch with Chris one more time, at least in this manga. Terajima, if you don't have Sawamura catching... Here's the thing. We've talked about this in the Discord. Sawamura, honey... Well, I want to talk about this in chapter 256, but I'm going to try to remind myself about this. Let me remind myself about Chris. I'm going to make a note so I don't forget. But yeah, so Chris wanting to catch with him. And then Miyuki has that conversation with Tetsu. And he's like, you were right, Tetsu. He's like, if I just forgot about all the labels and everything, it all worked out. And I love that Yuki's like, yeah, like you did it. It's all good. It's just as you said. And Seki reveals that he was the one responsible for switching up the walk-up. He's like, that was my plan. Of course, I love Seki. I love Seki and Nabe behind the scenes. Like these two players are just like, they're so influential to the team just behind the scenes. It's great. I freaking love it. But yeah, the retired players being there. And then Naramiya, of course May sat out the semifinals with, that team that doesn't matter. God, it's like May is going to be at full strength when he goes into the final. Because of course he will. I'm like, Terajima could not give they could not give Inashiro any more of an advantage, right? We don't have Nori. May sat out the entire semifinal to be the ace for the final. You could not give us more. Sawamura is like in a crazy headspace. You could not give Inashiro any more advantage, could you? I mean, I get that Sato's an underdog, Terajima. I get that, but can we not make them the ultimate underdogs? Can we not? I guess them coming from Powerhouse School, they're not the ultimate underdogs. That's kind of like Yakushi's deal, but could you not, Terajima? Could you not? It's just like, and also, I know some people in the comments are like, why do you call Akamatsu a demon? He's not a demon. We hardly know anything about him. Look at that smile. Nah. He's a freaking demon. No, little saintly pictures don't make that smile. That curveball, he is demonic, and once May is gone, he is going to usurp the throne. Hirano and May are going to leave, and Akamatsu is going to come down with an iron club. And Itsuki's going to be like, bow down, bitches. I don't know what else to tell you. Like, that's just how it's going to be, right? Akamatsu, his curveball pitching, like, you could see, like, the trajectory of it. He's terrifying because he's, like, kind of like a Furuya. Him and Naramiya are kind of like Furuya and Sawamura. They're like a pitching duo you don't want, right? It's not going to be fun to play them, right? But yeah, 9-2 shutout. I was joking. I was like, I watch these Koshu games where it's like an 8-4 shutout or whatever. Where's that in this series? It's Inashiro, because of course it is. And then I do like the third year Hirano got to pitch. He seems like a nice guy. He's doing great. And then Itsuki, just him doing great out there catching. And Naramiya watching. He's sitting there with like a smug look on his face. You know who he reminds me of? If you've ever watched Game of Thrones, he's friggin' Joffrey. Naramiya is Joffrey Baratheon. That is absolutely who May is. Like, I can't get it out of my brain now. I'm like, no, he's Joffrey. Absolutely. It's great. That stupid grin. Kunitomo's like cracking his neck over in the corner. Kateoka and Ochiai look a little bit worried, like, oh, they really just squeaked through that. They didn't even have to squeak through that semifinal. They just rolled through it. Like, windows down, bass blaring. And the finals are set. And so then we have chapter 255 and 256. Terajima, why can't you let us have nice things? I don't understand. So, chapter 255, I took quite a bit of notes on. So, Koshu is watching, because of course Koshu's watching, as Amahisa gets the text, as Sawamura gets the text from Amahisa. And that text, it's... Amahisa, for all his weirdness, is very blunt and straightforward in his communication, unlike a certain catcher in these next 2 chapters, but we'll talk more about him. But... Amahisa saying, I'm glad I was able to have a pitching duel with you in my last high school game. Thanks. I mean it. That got me. I was like, the fact that one, Amahisa sent the text. He sent the text to Sawamura, but him to say I'm so happy that you were my last pitcher I got to face in high school. In high school. That's the thing. I really hope that we get like some epilogue chapters, kind of like with another series, where we get to see Sawamura, like, if he goes pro. We don't know. We haven't really talked about Sawamura's goals post-high school, which we'll talk about in chapter 256. But I really hope that Sawamura, if he does go pro, he gets to see Amahisa pitching and they get to face each other again. I want to see them, like, walk up and be like, hey. And he's like, hey. And it's like, yeah! And we'll talk more about that, but I thought that was so cool. And then Sawamura... and then Kosei added to it, he's like, make it to Koshin. It's kind of like that Sonata thing. He's like, don't make our loss in vain. Beat Inashiro and go to Koshin. It's like, Amahisa has your back, right? And so Sawamura, because it's Sawamura, and it's just like, he gets all that emotion washes over him, and he remembers seeing and wishing he'd say it it's almost like Sawamura wishes he could have said this to Kosei in the moment, but now it's all just hitting him like it's a delayed reaction. And he's like, thank you for all your hard work these last 3 years. And it's like, that's so sweet. And then Koshu's like, okay, text that to him. I love that Koshu's like kind of Sawamura's like life coach in these next 2 chapters, where he's like, text it to him. Don't just say it. He can't hear you from here. I'm like, oh my God, it's great. But yeah, so we find out that Aso got dumped. Now, to be honest, I really feel for Aso. You know why? Because I had the exact same experience that Aso had. Same experience. I met somebody and everything was going great, and I confessed to them and like asked them out, and they were like, sure. And then literally 2 days later, they were like, oh, well, I really hadn't thought about that, and I was just kind of being nice, so I just want to be friends. Had the exact same experience as Aso. So, dude, I know exactly where you are coming from. 100%. I mean, granted, keep that off the field, but I could totally relate to Aso in this. And I love that Seki's like my best friend. My best friend through all that was like, you don't need him, and like, we'll get over this. Look at her bravery and like all this. Like, my best friend was literally Seki in this instant. I was like, Seki, you're doing best friend vibes. I freaking love it. I love how you defended Aso. It was great. And then speaking of defending, Zono has to defend his foot injury from the team being like, why didn't you tell us? Do we need to go tell the coach? And Zono's like, no, it's fine. I'm good. And I'm like, good. I'm glad you're fine, Zono. Get that shit taped up. We ain't got time for this in the final. Nah. And meanwhile, while everybody's like bickering and yelling back and forth, Tojo is like looking at Kanemaru being like, everybody's getting along great, right? And Kanemaru was like, my stress level. And so then the conversation between Nabe and Miyuki is interesting. Because Nabe is going on about how Inashiro used Akamatsu and all of that, and how Itsuki is described as the brains behind Inashiro. Which is curious, right? Because Itsuki, I've always kind of like had a little sense of doubt. He kind of has Yui vibes to me. I get Yui vibes from Itsuki. Like Itsuki really wants to try and do well. And Itsuki's kind of like Koshu and Yui put together, because he's like Yui in his sort of like, he seems timid, but he's really tenacious, but he has really good communication skills like Koshu. So I feel like Miyuki seeming excited by that is for a number of different reasons. One, because Miyuki likes a challenge. So the fact that Mei and Itsuki are a good battery that's a challenge to Miyuki. But also I feel like Itsuki is maybe somebody that Miyuki wants to challenge as a catcher and feels like he could have a really cool catcher's duel with Itsuki. So that's going to be interesting. Because here's the thing. Harada did not like Miyuki. We talked about this in the Discord. Harada does not like Miyuki at all. It's like Harada's Mei's boyfriend and doesn't like the ex, you know? Which I ship Harada and Mei quite a bit. I don't really ship Harada and Itsuki. I feel like Itsuki's too timid for Mei. I don't know. Maybe the finals will change my opinions, but I'm kind of like, I don't feel it, right? And so, but I feel like Miyuki might feel a challenge from Itsuki, and that could be interesting, seeing how they handle each other. And plus, Itsuki's friendly and nice, so it's curious. It'll be curious to see how Itsuki is in the final. But obviously, Itsuki has grown because he's doing really well with the 3 pitchers. He can handle Hirano, Akamatsu, and Mei, which are very different pitchers and different styles. So clearly, he's a good pitcher. He's a good catcher, I mean, right? And so we get Nori coming back. And Nori's face, oof. And Nori's face is kind of like bittersweet. Like Nori's like, well, it's probably good you told me not to pitch. So basically he does have inflammation process in his elbow. They don't want him to pitch in the finals. But in the finals, in the next 2 days, in the finals. They worded that very specifically. They didn't say he could never pitch again. They just said not in the finals. And I was like, okay. So there's a chance if they beat him in the finals and we go to Koshin, Nori can pitch. I just want Nori to pitch one more time in his high school career. I really do. And I'm hopeful that Terajima has them win, and we'll talk about this chapter next chapter. I'm hopeful that Sato will win the finals and go to Koshin so that Nori can pitch one more time in his high school career. I really want that. I want Nori to come in one more time and pitch before his high school career is over. So it won't exactly be like the game last year. In the game last year, Nori came in the very end. In this game, that's not looking likely. So I don't know. And so they're going to start with Furuya. Now, that did not surprise me at all. I'm like, Sawamura just pitched 9 innings. To start off with Sawamura in the final would be ridiculous. Like, let the boy rest a little bit. Let Furuya. Furuya is like, he saved up all this energy just like Mei has. Let Mei and Furuya go at it. Just let them do it. Let them have their thing. Let him do it. That part did not surprise me at all. And I think it's a smart move. As much as I love Sawamura, I love Furuya too. And Furuya waited patiently in the last game. He'll be fine to go in this game. That part's fine. And I love that Nori's kind of like, well, I can't be in this game. And Ono, because Ono can't really be in this game because of his injury, he's like, no. He's like, Nori, we can do stuff together. We can still do things. And that was really sweet. I love that Ono stood up to help Nori and help him feel better. That was really, really nice. So Furuya. So we go back to Furuya talking. Miyuki is like practicing up on top of the hill, like you do. And Furuya comes up to practice with him, right? And Miyuki asks how he feels about everything because Miyuki's just trying to get a feel on Furuya and like how he's going to be tomorrow. And Furuya's like, well, I'm kind of in the same place I was last year. I was number 11 back then, like I am now. And I'm starting off the final like I was then. So Furuya's kind of in a weird place, right? Furuya's like, well, I'm kind of where I was last year. So it feels bizarre, right? And I feel like Miyuki's trying to make him feel better. And so he compliments, but in the process, he compliments Sawamura. He starts out the conversation complimenting Sawamura, saying that he had true ace pitching. I'm like, Sawamura, if you were just 30 seconds earlier, if you just walked up 30 seconds earlier, you would have heard the man that you want complimenting you compliment you. Terajima, why can't we have nice things? Why? Gotta calm down. But this 255 to 256, they frustrate me so much. But yeah, he's just like, he talks about aces. He talks about the ace pitching that Sawamura does, and he's like, as a partner, as his assistant, as the fourth hole, I want to help him all I can. I'm like, wow, you could say this to Furuya, Miyuki. I mean, to Sawamura, Miyuki. You could say this to Sawamura, as well as Furuya. But the thing of it is that Furuya's like, I don't want to be outdone by Eijun. I love that he calls him Eijun, by the way. I love that Furuya calls him that. But Miyuki, Sawamura comes up right after he says that about the whole partner deal. And the thing about Miyuki and Furuya is, I've said this for volumes, and back in the anime too, is that Miyuki and Furuya are kind of similar in that they're both kind of introverted and quiet and private individuals. And I've always felt like I've never, ever felt like a romantic attraction between Furuya and Miyuki. And we'll talk about that in a minute. I've never felt that between them, but I've always felt like Miyuki and Furuya have a very close bond because of how similar they are. And Miyuki relates a lot to Furuya. Like back in the rooms when they had the party and Furuya didn't really want to get social. And Miyuki was like, I totally relate. Like I feel like Miyuki and Furuya relate a lot to each other. And so Miyuki feels comfortable like opening up to Furuya because he knows, one, Furuya's not going to tell everybody. He doesn't have a loud mouth. And two, he knows he can trust Furuya and he wants to help genuinely make Furuya feel better for the next day. So that's why he asks, he's like, have you ever thought about going pro? And he's asking that because he's thinking about Nori. And he's like, I didn't realize Nori wasn't planning on going pro. He's like, how many other people aren't planning to go pro? And so he's like, Furuya, what about you? He's like, we're friends. Tell me what's up. And so Furuya's like, well, I don't know. And then Miyuki confesses that he wants to go pro. And I love that double spread where he's like, I want to go pro to repay my old man for letting me play baseball. For like funding his bills. And I'm like, oh. Like, I love that. I love that Furuya wants to, like, make his old man feel good and, like, help pay it off. He wants to be a professional ball player, which he could. Miyuki could so be pro, for sure. But I'm like, but then, like, Sawamura, like, he hears the conversation, and I'm like, just keep walking towards them. Don't put up a wall. Stop it. This is not Neon Genesis. Stop it. I was like, what is this BL business? Chapter 256 is the plot line of a BL. I'm sorry if you don't ship Miyuki and Sawamura, but it is a BL plotline. Like, this is this angst I have read in fanfiction. I have seen this angst in BL series. What is this nonsense? No. He starts to leave. And I'm like, no. But here's my thing. It dawned on me in this chapter exactly what it is. Miyuki is to Furuya what Chris is to Sawamura. Because Furuya talks about how Miyuki was the first person to catch his pitch and he reveres him. He like idolizes him. There's no romance there. Just like there's no romance with Chris and Sawamura to me. I'm like, no, Sawamura and Furuya idolize Chris and Miyuki as catchers, right? But Sawamura idolizes Chris as like his first catcher. There's like no romantic angle there. It's just like, you are like my master senpai and I want to like you to notice me and know that how good I am and praise me. And Furuya is the same way with Miyuki. Like, Miyuki is his Chris, right? But Sawamura doesn't realize that. And so Furuya's just kind of like, and just kind of like how, and that kind of rings true because Chris is really open and vocal to Sawamura. Like, he's very honest and pragmatic. Miyuki is very open and honest and pragmatic to Furuya because there's no tension there. There's no romance there. It's just, you're my Kohei and I'm trying to help you the best I can. So how Miyuki treats Furuya is just like how Chris treats Sawamura. There is some favoritism there, just like how Yuki noticed it in the stands with Chris, but that's all that there is, right? And Sawamura doesn't realize that. And so Miyuki says, you both are fine as you are, but Sawamura doesn't hear it. And I'm like, Miyuki, you need to tell Sawamura this. And I'm like, Miyuki, how do you boys not notice that Sawamura was walking up? How'd you not see him? How'd you not notice? You deaf? I'm like, oh. And he tells him to never change. And I'm like, and so then we cut back to Seki getting the May special geared up for everybody. Everybody is telling Zono to gear up and like bandage up. And he's like, okay. We see Tojo with Shirasu and Kanemaru. We see Haruichi and Mochi together practicing. We see, I love the scene of Ono with Nabe and Nori at the table. Like these three players who are so integral to the entire like spirit of the team, but they can't play. And they're like just sitting together talking and strategizing. So good. Because Nori is still the spirit of Sato, the pitchers. He's still the guardian spirit, the guardian deity. I love it. And Ono's kind of like one of the leads amongst the first years and everybody else. And so of course, Miyuki doesn't notice Sawamura coming from a mile away. He's the loudest character in this series, and you can't notice him coming from a mile away, Miyuki. But Koshu does. Here's the thing, Miyuki doesn't notice Sawamura is like the only person coming up to them with a 50-foot radius. doesn't notice him. Koshu is like walking past a loud vending machine, looks over and sees Sawamura and is like, woo, like right there, like what the fudge? But yeah, Koshu notices Sawamura. He's in the sad stairway, the stairwell of despair. And he's like, what's wrong? And Sawamura, like, this is the plot of a damn BL, where he's like, he wanted to get to Miyuki, but he's out of reach. That's the thing. He's like, he wants to be a battery with Miyuki so badly. And that's his catcher. But it's dawned on him that he's like, damn it, Miyuki's going to go pro and then move on to somebody else, to another pitcher. That's not going to be me. And it gets him that he's like, he wants to get to Miyuki, but he always seems out of reach. And he has that flashback. And in the flashback, to be fair, in the flashback, Miyuki's kind of cold in the dialogue that Sawamura picks up. Sawamura is like, the dialogue of Miyuki in that volume is him being like, oh, well, I'll practice you when I can. And like all this. And it's like, and it's just Miyuki always being somewhat out of reach for Sawamura. And he's mad because Miyuki has avoided talking about his plans after high school this whole time to anyone, even his fellow third years. And the first person he opens up to isn't Sawamura, it's Furuya. And Sawamura's like, but I'm your ace. We're supposed to be partners. And you don't open up to me first about this? You open it up to Furuya? And the sad thing is that I get where Sawamura's coming from. My Taurus empathy is like on 120%. I'm like, dude, I'm with you. Because there is like a little jealousy there, like with Furuya. But the thing of it is, Miyuki didn't mean anything bad by it. That's the problem. Miyuki doesn't realize just how much Sawamura loves him. And it's like, he doesn't realize that. And so he just thought him opening up to Furuya would help him open up for the game tomorrow. He was just doing something nice as a captain and as a friend and as a fellow teammate, but Sawamura took it personally. He's like Michael Jordan, that meme. He's like, I took that personally. They didn't open up to me first. We're supposed to be the big battery here, and you can't tell me, or you can't communicate with me. How are we supposed to get closer? And it's like, I want to sob. It's just, that's how bad it is, right? And then he thinks of May and all the other pitchers he has to compare with. And of course, May is like front and center. May and Hongo are like the top two pitchers. They're like front and center. And then, but he also thinks of like, of Amahisa, of Sanada, of Mukai, of Mamiya. He thinks of all them too. And he's like, all these pitchers are amazing. And it's not just pitchers on other teams. It's like even the ones next to me. And he's like, and then there's the world above that. And it's like Sawamura's insecurity of being like, I'm the ace, but I'm not good enough for my captain and my catcher and my partner to open up to me. Like, he's like, I'm not good enough for that. Like, I'm like, bawl my eyes out. And he's like, there's always going to be someone I have to compete against for Miyuki's affection and attention, essentially. And he's like, there's no end in sight. And it's like, he's like, once this summer's over, he's like, Miyuki's going to move on and play pro for another team and be with another pitcher. And he's like, what am I going to do? And it's like, oh my God, no. And so then I'm glad Koshu and Asada and Kuki and Sato come up and they're like, are you okay? And he's like, there's no damn end in sight. And it's like, Koshu, snap him out of it, please. And I'm also like, Koshu, you are Miyuki's roommate. You better say something to Miyuki about this, about Sawamura not being in good spirits. You better say something about it to him. I wanted to cry. I did. I was like, I was so happy they won this semifinal, and then Terajima, you throw that angst on us? How dare you, sir? How dare you? But here's the thing. What I was wanting to bring Chris up by, and I see my note now, is that I really want, as much as I want Terajima to like draw and illustrate like after. I feel like Act 2 obviously is going to end with either the finals or Koshin. But then I don't know if Terajima will do an Act 3. I don't think he will, because Kuramochi will be gone, Zona will be gone, Shirasu will be gone, Miyuki will be gone, like all your main people will be gone. I feel like it's going to be like, if he does anything post Act 2, it'll be like post high school, and maybe we'll like do flashbacks and tie back to the third year. But I want Sawamura to go and be a battery with Chris. I want that. And it's going to sound fanficky, and y'all will be like, that sounds like a fanfic. And I'll be like, well, this whole chapter was a fanfic, so the shoe fits. But I want Sawamura to go be in a battery with Chris. And then I want Miyuki to be like, no, come play with me. And be in a battery with me. That's what I want. I want Sawamura to go play with Chris, go overseas, go to America, go do that. The voice actor for Sawamura can speak English. He'll be fine. I know that Chris's VA can speak English. They'll be fine. And I want that. And then I want Miyuki to be like, no, come play for my pro team. And that be the end of Ace of the Diamond, is Miyuki and Sawamura being on a team together. And we see like the first pitch thrown. And it's like, woo, I want to see it. I want to see it. Yeah. But I want Koshu and them to cheer Sawamura up. If they don't cheer Sawamura up and he goes into this final in a bad mood, I'm going to be mad, Terjima. We don't need this unnecessary drama. This whole semifinal did not have unnecessary drama. We had drama, but it was not unnecessary. It had a purpose. It connected to something else. None of this BL bullshit that you're dropping on us. I don't need it. Wine Chan was a great idea. I'm going to just do Wine Chan every volume from here on in. I might. We really only have a few more. We have volume 29, 30, 31, 32, maybe 33. I don't know what chapter we're up to right now. If we make it to volume 33, that's chapters 293 to 301. Maybe we'll make it that far. I want to make it to chapter 300. I really do. We still got like 44 chapters to go. God. So we still have at least 4 more volumes of Ace of the Diamond. At least. That doesn't seem like a lot, but it's a lot. I may have to do Wine Chan for all of them to cope with this nonsense. I really enjoyed this volume. I liked volume 27. Like, volume 27 is one of my favorite volumes of this entire series, but this volume was great. Would have been better if we didn't have this BL business. But what can we do? So I'm very curious to know your thoughts down below. No spoilers, please, but I'm excited for the finals. I just want Koshu and the first years to help Sawamura get over this little slump. Because as a fellow Taurus, I can relate. We Tauruses, we're stubborn, we're romantic, we take things very personally, and we overthink things sometimes, and Sawamura's overthinking things. And I need Miyuki just to slap him upside the face, or Koshu to smack him, or somebody just to get him back in the game. So there's that. But in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. I hope you enjoyed this reaction discussion. And I'll be back next week with volume 29 of Ace of the Diamond. Bye.